to the show. This is The Force Always. My name is Diz, aka David Zammit. Let's get on with the show. This is the news, views, reviews, and interviews. Let's go. Anyway, in the news, George Lucas has apparently put out there via an interview, apparently and reportedly, reportedly, but whether it's real or not, he said he's moved past the franchise of Star Wars. He's left the vision of Disney to their own, and he's got a life. That's what he's saying right now. That is just some news, which I will speak on a bit later in the show in interviews. If you want to stick around, that's a bit later in the show. That's some news, Star Wars news. George Lucas has put it out there that he's moved past the franchise. That's the franchise of Star Wars. He's got a life, and Disney has made it their own. Anyway, to other news, no other news with Starfighter, which is sort of surprising me at the moment. Starfighter, the new big blockbuster movie, the new big installment to the story of Star Wars, which is coming out in 2027. No news at the moment, which is sort of a good thing, but you would think some leaks have been created, but nothing, which is amazing. So that's Starfighter, the movie, the next big installment to the Star Wars storyline. Is got no news at the moment. It's still filming, and that's it. With the Mandalorian and Grogu, some news with that film. Well, nothing. No news at the moment. They're in the technically the editing process, so they may go back for a reshoot soon. I don't know, and that's it. That's the news. Anyway, let's get into the views. This is my story idea. I'm going to keep it basic. The story idea, basic story idea. That now, listen, I accept this story of Star Wars as it is. Hate or love it or whatever it is, it's the story, and it's still enjoyable. It's an enjoyable story from all the way from the beginning of the storyline at the moment all the way to the last bit. I accept the story. But my story idea is, what does Mandalorian and Grogu really, really need to do at this stage to create a good story? So, in my opinion, okay, and accept. The actual first public teaser trailer, whatever you want to call it, was not super great, and it did look a bit sort of underwhelming in its epic look. It just needs to show us that it's going to dive into an epic sort of feel. Star Wars is an epic story. When Star Wars becomes a little bit, less epic, it doesn't come off like Star Wars. But Star Wars can have interpretation. Like, there's many versions of Star Wars out there. And I'm not talking about the original films. I'm talking about, the episodic movie releases, the in-betweens, like a Star Wars story, the TV shows. It all has different sort of versions of Star Wars. But really, Star Wars, when coming to the cinema, needs to have an epic feel. I think the story needs, and especially in the next trailer, needs to show that they are really going into a epic adventure, whatever that is. Apparently they are sort of aborting a lot of the ideas in season 3, and sort of moving back into the whole father-son relationship between the Mandalorian and Grogu. This is apparently, it's just apparently out there, which will sort of be good for the people who don't know what Mandalorian and Grogu is, really. Really, we do need to go into this story like it's the first thing that people see, because a lot of people have Disney Plus, and a lot of people know about Grogu. A lot of people know about the Mandalorian, but you really want to go into this film as a first time event. That's how I would create the story. But anyway, it's it's been created. It's in the editing process and probably reshoot soon. Anyway, that is my story idea. Let's get into reviews. Reviews this time around is going to be of a classic figure. And in fact, I'll tell you this. This was the last time that Star Wars actually had a official Star Wars line for figures. That is it. That's Star Wars, a Solo, a Star Wars story. This is Lando Calrissian, one of the greatest characters and in Solo, and Billy D. Williams, which was the original Lando Calrissian, great, and I keep forgetting this guy's name. He's a sort of singer and a rapper as well. Oh my goodness, I can't think of his name. I can never remember people's names, my God. But anyway, this was I thought it was a great film. Like I would say very good. I wouldn't say the great, excellence, but it was great. It was a very good film. And this is one of the particular figures that came out. That's Lando Calrissian. I definitely hold this as a prized possession because this is the last real toy line that Star Wars had. And, it still has, this Force link thing with it. And, there was a lot of creativity. There was a lot of, fun with the figures. When Rise of Skywalker came out, they really just left it. You could get things, but it was more packaging issues of figures. But anyway, it's so that one I give a 9 out of 10, only because the movie reflection, what I thought, and the actual figure line. Like I just, I know Solo is with the yellow look, but it just, the packaging is good. It's great, but it's I'm not big on to the color yellow. But yellow is a happy color. Anyway, so that's a 9 out of 10, but I definitely hold that as a prized possession. Anyway, let's get into interviews. So we have, now if you want to comment, make comments, or if you want to send a like, share the video, that's great. Subscribe to the channel if you like. It'd be great. Send your comments via my YouTube channel, and I could quite easily attend to them, deemed appropriate. And so any questions you have, let me know. But anyway, we're going to talk a bit about the George Lucas reported article out there. That particular article is feeding the people who are always validating George Lucas, and also feeding a thing called out of context. I mean, look, there is the only way you can really get the context is to then keep on asking George Lucas himself directly of what he actually meant. Like, for example, the part where he's moved past the franchise. When he sold it, I'm sure he was, dealing with the moving on process. But he had moved past. He had made, a big thing by selling Star Wars. At that point, he had moved past. But what he means by that, it can be out of context with a number of people. It's like, oh, I'll move past it. I don't care for it anymore. I mean, we don't know that. We don't know that unless we ask him directly. Now, and before you think I'm a non-supporter of George Lucas, I love George Lucas. He is the man. He's the man. In fact, I'll just add on something quickly here. One time when I went on a date, the girl asked me who is like an inspiration in your life, and I said George Lucas. Moments later, she left. she left. She left. But anyway, but I still think he went through an absolute ordeal, especially, in the very first movie, in getting that made. I mean, that was a monumental effort. And what the result was monumental as well. Greatness. Anyway, let's go back to the article. Now, the article is also saying that he's got a life. That's what he's saying. He's got a life. And Disney has made it their own. Now, these are just more comments, validating that he's sort of saying, between the lines without saying it, that, it's Disney's, not mine. And it's sort of saying, I've got a life now. You can have that life. I mean, he could mean that. We don't know. But it's just comments being made that I view that he's got a life outside of Star Wars. He's moved on, and it's Disney's own. That's the bare facts, without giving it a context of a negative feel. Like, I just think, this article is pretty straightforward. It doesn't really explain the whole feeling behind those comments. And I just think the first thing Star Wars hardcore fans do, and I'm a Star Wars hardcore fan, but I'm a different sort of fan. Like, I actually love things that they love, and when I say they, it's not me against the world here, but there's a lot of things that I don't agree. But anyway, for example, I still think to this day Empire Strikes Back is not as great as a lot of fans make out to be. But it's still great. But I just don't think it's as, I think Revenge of the Sith is an ultimate Star Wars film, in my opinion. But at the same time, I think the whole storytelling of Star Wars is great in itself, whether it's in a bad way or not. But this whole article, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, fans continue to, and not all fans, and I'm not saying all the hardcore Star Wars fans, are just continuing putting a possible negative feel to what is being said or being given to them. Just relax. Have a moment and just enjoy what's going on. I look at many Star Wars fan films that are on YouTube, and I go, okay, that's a bit cringe, but that's good. Like, I actually look for a Star Wars fan film that, sort of has a seamless Star Wars story. Like, you don't feel like you're watching a fan film. And there's a number of them out there. I won't name which ones, because that's my opinion. Everyone's got their own opinion of what's good and bad. But we just got to move. We've got to move on, as George Lucas is saying. Move on from being so negatively initially upfront about these things. We just got to create a blank canvas. Like, just take it for what it is. And if that's what it is, that's what it is. I'm going to be obscure here for one moment to give you an understanding. I love the movie The Joker. But the second one, for me, because it's musically inclined as a musical, as a film, I just, ugh, but that's where the film went. That's the storyline. I accept it. It's almost like that film Megan. Megan. No, I've not seen Megan, but Megan, the first one was highly received. The second one was not so much received because it turned into a comedy. Now I know that it can be not the expectation, but look, just enjoy the moment. In a world of in the world that we live in at the moment, you know, sides and opinions are a big divide in this world, and Star Wars really back in 1977, showed us, the good versus bad, the bad versus good, everything like this, and we just it's funny. Star Wars the movie is becoming almost like real life. Hence why I've said the next film, which technically is Starfighter, should simulate a lot of things in real life to relate to. That's my extra story idea, but that doesn't mean I don't accept the story of Star Wars so far. I just think Star Wars would benefit a lot in creating a storyline to similar to how life is turning out at the moment. In fact, I think the very first Star Wars, George Lucas took inspiration from particular wars that was happening or happened closer to that time of 1977. Anyway, so look, that's my show this week. It's a little bit of a rant towards the end, but whatever you see here, whatever it is, just remember one thing. Keep rocking the Force always. And look at this morning dew. It's great.